Hi, and welcome to my channel. This is the astrology highlights for the remaining part of May, the end part of May. I was going to include the 21st of May, but I didn't think I'd get it uploaded in time. The 21st of May does have a T-square, but I mean, I don't, as I said, I don't really think we'll talk about that because I didn't think I'd be able to fit it in like get it in time, upload it. Anyway, so let's get on with it. Um, Enough banter. So for those of you who haven't seen these before, I have two charts because on the left is the tropical version and on the right is the topocentric version. And what that is that tropical is by the seasonal system. Um, so that's why they're very obviously different. Whereas the topocentric goes by if you use a telescope, then this is the size of the constellations. As you can see, they're all very different sizes. Some are very tiny, and it includes a focus um, in the system. So we're going to go ahead from here. So yeah, so topocentric is as the telescope would show you if you looked at the night sky, where everything is actually placed, and as I said, the size of the actual constellations. Um, so I do it so you can compare yourselves to see what the differences are, um, and how it might play out for you. So anyway, as you can see, it says Venus quincunx Pluto here. Okay, I'll draw it there and there. And we've also got Moon square Uranus Cazimi because Uranus, the Cazimi still applies because it's only a degree away. So the sun's 2 degrees and Uranus is 1 degree. So here's the Cazimi. Um, and also because of the area I'm at, thing like the houses will also be different depending on where you're located. So yeah, so we've got the Uranus Cazimi squaring the moon. So just draw that in. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, so as you can see, there's a quincunx with the I will talk about the actual topocentric because that's what I follow. But yeah, so follow along if you're going by tropical with this left-hand side one. Yeah, so we've got I'll draw that in too, actually. We've got Venus in Gemini and Pluto in the early degrees of Capricorn, 4 degrees. What degree is Venus? 5 degrees. Okay. So we're talking about I'll circle it here so that it's also able to be followed by you. Um, so a quincunx is a pretty difficult. It's like an opposition, but it's also very uh, transformative, life affirming, transformative if you work with the energies. So we're looking at communicating our values, but we've also got Pluto in retrograde. So it's about how we view authority, how we view our ambitions, might also be how we view our career, um, a career trajectory, maybe even. Um, and so there's a need for balancing that out in terms of how we will communicate our values versus our ambitions, our our goals, our it could also be about oppressiveness, um, and control, because that's Capricorn, you know. Um, so it could be about that as well, or it could be, on the other hand, it could be the need for more control of a situation in our lives, in some way, and how we can communicate that with what we value. Um, Generally, if it's Taurus, because there's the Taurus energy in Taurus. So, with if Venus was in Taurus, for instance, it would be about well, financial values and our self-worth. If it was in Libra, it would be about the people we value. It's not in Libra, so it's in Gemini. So it's about um, valuable communication, even it could be, you know. And so we're working through those energies, but also with this Kazemi, uh, it's Uranus wanting to be innovative, break the status quo, um, sort of be maybe unpredictable a bit too, because it's not um, it's not yet combusting because it's still 1 degree away. Um, but it's also squaring the moon. So we've got this emotional side of things, and the moon in Leo now. Uh, we got so yeah, the moon covering Leo at this point. Um, and so it's about being in the spotlight, our creativity. Um, it can be about children, creativity, romance, love affairs, all that sort of thing as well. That's all the different things that Leo can um, cover, as well as being in the spotlight. Um, so we're looking at our that is what we're feeling emotional about, or um, feeling emotional doesn't. Oh, I've done it again. Sorry, that doesn't necessarily mean over emotional. It just what is important to us, and how, because the moon is about what we feel we need to feel safe. And that can be seen in a lot of different ways, not just physical safety, it's emotional safety, it's the safety of our career, perhaps, you know, and how we're able to find a way to feel secure, to feel safe doing what we want to do, you know, because there's that sort of freedom, because Uranus doesn't like to be held back, doesn't like to be stifled. You know, Uranus wants to break free, and this is a Cazimi, so it's a big deal. Um, yeah, so yeah, we're looking at how we can sort of work out the um, how would you put it? It's a no words. I've lost the word that I was going to say. It's a yeah. Trying to word for it. Challenge, yes. The word, I lost the word. Yeah, so it's a challenge with how we feel emotionally about Leo themes, right, in our life, and finding a way. Perhaps it's got to do with our money and our self-worth, because this is the Cazimi in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, and being in a Cazimi, you know, um, so it's a big deal. There's a lot of powerful energy, and as I said at the start, there's this quincunx, where if we're working through the energies in the best way we can, it will be transformative. But we've got to be able to communicate what we value, not get over emotional about it, and go within, right? Because Pluto's also, it's about purging, obviously, but it's also, as we always hear, the phoenix rising, and the phoenix can't rise until there's a purge, you know? So there's the idea that is there some way of thinking, remember this is Gemini, way of thinking or communicating with others perhaps, that we need to reevaluate, you know? Um, that could be the case too. And finding a way to communicate our values without getting over emotional and without upsetting others. Um, yeah, that'll be the way forward, I think. I mean, there's not really a Libra theme, but there's a Libra feel to it. Um, there might be, someone might have, somewhere might have the seventh house going with something here. Um, yeah, so hopefully that makes some sense. Yeah, because this will be coming out of a T square. When this happens, it's after a T square. So there would have been some sort of um, perhaps upheaval or a difficult circumstance that happened prior to this. So now we've got to reevaluate how we communicate what we value and what we're emotional about, you know, our having fun, being creative, being able to do that and being able to find a way with how we, you know, maybe our money, our self-worth, that's what Taurus is about, making bank and all that sort of thing. Finding some way to break the status quo perhaps or be innovative. Um, yeah, so I think that's it for now for this chart. Again, hopefully I have made some sense. I've sort of been a bit what do you call it? I've been a bit not really uploading very much lately, so I've sort of been out of sorts a bit, or whatever you call it. Yeah, so anyway, we'll move on to the next chart. And we have, okay, so go over here. So we've got Jupiter with Chiron squaring and Venus squaring Neptune. Okay, that's probably a bit messy because I want you to see the actual line as well. So go here. Oh, look, it's going to be that way anyway. Okay, so Jupiter, I'll put it this way. Jupiter with, that's terrible. Never claimed to be an artist. Um, anyway, this is the best I can do here. Jupiter with Chiron and Venus squaring Neptune. Oh, I think you get the point. This is, oh, okay, no, I'm going to fix it. Right, go away. Okay, so yeah, that one was okay. Okay, well, you get the point. Yeah, okay. So again, obviously, as I've said in other videos, sort of make a note of what themes are coming up for you, like in general. Because I mean, a birth chart for each person is obviously going to be different. The houses are going to be different, and also just in general, the location. So this chart, whether tropical or topocentric, if you change the location, it's going to be a bit different with the houses, you know, and where the ascendant is, stuff. It's going to change with, um, things are going to change. Um, but yeah, so anyway, let's get into it. Did I need to? No. Okay, so Now, Jupiter square Chiron, Jupiter's still in the late degrees of Gemini, so we've still got this theme of communication. Jupiter obviously expands communication, so Jupiter's wanting us to talk, um, basically, and so we're squaring Chiron. Now, Chiron again is also in the late degrees, and Chiron's in the late degrees of Pisces. And again, I knew I'd need to. Okay, 23 and 39. So right at the tail, Chiron's going to be moving into Aries soon enough, but not. Oh, well. Okay. Um, yeah, sorry, I've missed it. So we've got Jupiter and Chiron. What else did we go with? Venus is back again. I didn't do it on this side. Sorry, guys. And of course, Neptune. Oh, right. Sort of miss when I don't upload enough. I kind of feel like a bit of a fish out of water. Um, but yes, so we got Jupiter square Chiron, so healing our wounds from, you know, perhaps the deep past, so to speak. I don't know why I want to say it that way, but like from childhood wounds, that sort of thing. Chiron wounding can come along like from a long time ago, you know. So there's the need to communicate about our Chiron wounds, which probably we've been hiding because, of course, the fogginess of Pisces, you know. So expansive communication, and this is at the tail end. So this is often what happens when a planet is right near, well, about to move from one sign, one constellation to another. It can be quite intense. We do have that quincunxus like barely there now, so that would have been dealt with the couple of days before with the chart I showed before. Um, but yeah, so we've also got a couple of trines. So the moon is trining Uranus this time, and it's still in the Cazimi a little bit, but not as intense. Because as you can see, well, I don't know if you can. We've got 9 degrees for Uranus and 11 degrees for the Sun. Um, so what I mean by that is that it's also trining Pluto. The Cazimi is also trining Pluto, so it's actually, that's a good sign with the trines, that it's actually easygoing energy. So it's not sort of going to be so intense. So the squares, as I finally found the word, a challenge. um, just, I don't know why I couldn't think of the word. And I was like, what is it? But anyway, so Jupiter speaking expansively, expansive communication about Chiron wounds, um, in, you know, some sort of healing needed from the past. And again, things that have been shrouded. It could be addictions as well. It could be expansive communication with addictions that have been wounding the person or others. You know, that could be a thing as well. Um, we also still have Saturn in Pisces as well. So there's that sort of, even though Saturn's not really in the aspect there with the square, it's still giving us a sobering sort of energy to work with, where we need to be considering what we say, remember, because this is Gemini, expansive communication, and also Venus is still in Gemini. So expansive communication about our values and having a sort of serious Saturnian um, details are more Virgo, but it's more getting organized in a sense. Um, because with Neptune, it's sort of what's been hidden or what's cloudy, what needs to be cleared, you know, what needs to be seeing through the fog, and where we need to, again, the communication. So it's going to involve others. Again, there's nothing in Libra. And seventh house again, it might be for some places, seventh house might come into this. But yeah, there's sort of because of Venus on and Gemini, you can't communicate just with yourself. You've got to communicate with others. So there is a need for um, expansive communication. But with the moon trining Uranus, that should be actually helping things out because it's also trining, not the moon, but the Uranus cazimi is also trining Pluto, as I said. So there's the easygoing energy. So it's not so difficult. However, the moon is opposing um, Neptune. So how we feel safe, it's on 1 degree as well of Virgo, so there might be a health aspect to it, duty, service to others, how you communicate things, how's it going to affect others, you know? And this is sort of the need to look at what is sort of, you know, how sometimes if something's confusing and you might say, I don't know. Sometimes I've said it to myself anyway. If I'm sort of trying to figure something out, I'm like, what am I not seeing? Well, this is where Pisces is, you know, with the Chiron and Neptune and even Saturn. It's sort of like there's a seriousness, but we're not really clearly seeing it. So this is how we then work with this expansive communication in a way that's going to be easygoing, where we still can be innovative, break free, break the status quo without sort of, you know, like the couple of days before this where there was a T-square, you know, where it was hard energy, where it was difficult energy, where there might be arguments and all that sort of thing, you know. So there is still squares, and yes, there's an opposition, but the opposition is also balancing our emotional side, duty, service to others, like I said, but how we communicate in a way that's not going to harm others, you know, because Virgo is always thinking about how they can help others, you know, the nursemaid, how the health, duty, service to others, you know, details, 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 you know, being nitpicky even. Um, so that's another thing that we need to be careful about, although this is trining. So perhaps the nitpickiness will sort of pull back in a sense because we're also are we at the first quarter square or have we passed it? But anyway, it's close to the first quarter square, so this is still you know, it's still a challenge in a sense because you know, as long as we have our emotional balance while we're still trying to be innovative or break out of some sort of stifling situation. We're still looking within about how we, you know, might perceive our our part in something, like how we're how ambitious we are compared to how others might sort of feel about it. because, you know, the emotional, what we feel we need to feel safe sort of thing with the moon in Virgo. So there's definitely a health aspect in some way, whether that's emotional, physical, um, financial health it could be too, because we've got a lot of Taurus here, and the Cazimi is in Taurus, and Venus is the ruling planet of Taurus. So there could be a financial side of things as well, where there's someone that needs to do something innovative to break free from their financial situation, perhaps, and looking at what's holding us back. You know, here comes Pisces. You know, Chiron and Neptune in Pisces, and trying to clear that foggy shroud so we can work with communicating in a peaceful way, but still see where we might be a bit overly ambitious or underly ambitious. You know, it could be either way. And looking within about how we perceive authority, perhaps, how we deal with authority, how we communicate with authority, you know. Um, it could be communication with authority about certain things that we're holding within ourselves, if that even makes sense. Um, yeah. So again, it's sort of like finding a way to communicate what we value, what we feel we need to safely break the status quo or be innovative in some way, and where we can sort of clear the pathway perhaps to some sort of healing, because this is sort of giving me a lot of shroudedness, fogginess, that sort of thing that we need to sort of look at in that sense, because these guys are the ones that are squaring these guys, you know. Um, so yeah, hopefully again, I think I'll go on to the next. Hopefully it made sense. I never really know. But I'll just go with it. Okay, so we'll go on to the next chart. Okay. So now we have a T-square. Okay. So here we've got a T-square. And as I've said before, well, obviously I'm explaining it because I follow Topocentric True Sidereal. Um, but yeah, again, I'll reiterate that just take note of what goes on in general in on these days. Also, depending on where you're located, this might be the 25th for some places where this happens. It might be on the 25th in some places geographically, but around the world. But yeah, so just check with what time it would be for you guys, wherever you're from. Um, yeah. But what that changes, it doesn't change the constellations, it changes the houses. Yeah, so let's get on with the T square, which involves Venus, the moon, and now we'll see where that takes us. Saturn's still in Pisces, as you can see, again, via the telescope. Saturn's still in Pisces. Um, yeah, sorry. Boom, let's go. So now we've got a T square going. Sorry about my drawing. You know, hopefully you can see it enough for it to make sense where it's actually located. Um, I think I'll just redo this one because that's Virgo. Okay, got it all. I think we have. All right, so again, I'll be talking about Venus being in Gemini. So we're still moving with this communicating our values. Now, this is a hard aspect. So this one might be kind of tough to work with because we've got the moon involved. So the moon is in Virgo. This again, like I was picking up with the nitpickiness. Libra's not nitpicky, it's Virgo. But yeah, so sort of things with the nitpickiness and the seriousness. This could be about addictions because that's Pisces. Saturn's taking a serious look. Saturn's sort of putting on the brakes. Saturn's authority. For some reason, I wanted to say dictatorship. Okay, I don't know where that came from, but it could have something to do with Pluto and Capricorn. You know. Yeah, because Pluto's squaring Mars in Aries as well, so there might be, wow, there might be some sort of thing with. I didn't write that in because it doesn't let you go the whole way anyway. So I might just draw that in as well. This, if you're following the what Mars in Aries, in the early degrees of Aries. Well, actually, Pluto's early degrees of Capricorn, they're only like Mars is 3 degrees and Pluto's in 4 degrees. So they're both early degrees of their signs. So yeah, that might be something too, although it's not right on the tail end or start. Well, yeah, because it's a T-square, so there's gonna be some sort of upheaval, difficulty. It's gonna be because there's gonna be emotional uh there's gonna be emotion coming into it, yeah, because it's a T-square, it's hard aspects. Saturn, like I said, is very uh oppressive. It can be, um, and what we need to do to work through this T-square is not to get too aggressive, sort of aggressive authority taking action, um, because for taking aggressive action while the moon's in Virgo and judgmental, Virgo's very judgmental, um, because we're still communicating what our values are, right? What we value. Um, and look, Chiron's still got that square to Jupiter going here as well. So we're looking at healing past wounds, like from the deep dark past. Yeah, so it's sort of a matter of, are we going to communicate in a way that's going to, you know, be unsettling? And look, this is also pretty much getting combust now with the Cazimi because it's now 3 degrees. So it's pretty much pulling out the Cazimi energy now by this time. Yeah, so it's sort of, again, looking within about what we need to purge. And there might be some sort of either communicating with authority figures or communicating with our own personal authority, you know, having a serious look at issues, perhaps with addictions or self-sabotage, um, sabotaging others even maybe, you know, and with this Virgo moon, health, duty, service to others, that sort of thing. Um, Being nitpicky, details, like crossing every T and dotting every I. Um, and we're going to have our emotions also adding to that. So we need to really focus so that we're not being too aggressive because it might be about taking action and having a bit of authority where we perhaps haven't before, you know? Pluto retrograde, looking within. What do we need to purge? What have we not been seeing? Remember from the other chart, what are we not seeing, kind of thing. And with Mars in Aries, well, Mars rules Aries, so Mars is happy in Aries, but Mars will sort of be very sort of forthright and be in the face kind of communication. So we have to sort of find a way, because it's a challenge. Look, there's challenges all over here now. So it's finding a way to communicate without getting in people's faces, um, because we've the communicate here, right? Communicating what is value, what we find valuable, what we value. And so I just feel there's gonna be emotional upheaval in some way for those who don't work with the energies well. There's going to be some kind of emotional upheaval. On the other hand, though, if we can work with it, a T square is big, tough energy, but look behind it, we see a grand trine. It's not extremely strong, but it's there, you know? So we've still got a chance to have our say in a way that's not going to get in people's faces, where we're perhaps looking within about what we're probably maybe projecting, or what we need to perhaps work on or be more confident in, because Aries are, stereotype of Aries, they're quite confident. So is Leo. But Aries is very, they don't mind getting in someone's face if they want to say something, whether or not they're right or wrong, you know. Um, but yeah, so it's sort of looking within about what way we communicate what we value, and if we're getting in people's faces or not, or whether we're taking action to be more forthright, where perhaps before we've been more Piscean and holding back and being a yes person, and sort of just going with the flow. Pisces likes to go with the flow, but sometimes some things sort of say, well, no, sorry, but there's no chance to go with the flow in this situation. So then we have to kind of work out, how can we do this in a way that's going to be as peaceful, Pisces, as we possibly can. Um, but again, like I said, there's still some sextiles and that sort of thing. There's actually a kite, quite frankly. So, but it's not as strong as the squares and the opposition. But yeah, so there's that underlying easier energy where if we can make the effort for it to work, it will work. But yeah, there's some sort of thing. We might see something, um, like I said, with the political arena, the authority, what's going on there, because not everyone's going to work with these energies to go, look, how can I communicate what's important to me, not get too over emotional and too critical about it, because being overly critical is also emotional, you know, because you get in your feelings and you're criticizing something or someone, you know, even if you're criticizing yourself, but we're not looking so much at Taurus at this point. But I feel like it's going to be sort of looking critically at a situation or others, and that's where we need to sort of not be so aggressive, because it will be working in our favor to not be aggressive, but at the same time take action, if that makes sense. Um, yeah. So this guy's going to be a tough one. Good luck for us all, but we can make it through unscathed, perhaps for some of us. Um, I guess we'll see what happens in the world arena there, because yeah, that's not always, the political arena doesn't always consider how to communicate with people in a way that's going to benefit others as well as themselves. Like I'm talking about the constituents, or the voters or whatever, that sort of thing. They're thinking more about business, like, Capricornian business, like what money can they make? What authority can they have, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens around this date. Like I said, for some places it might be 25th. Okay, so next we have um so Saturn square Venus. Okay. Saturn square Venus. So just circle here and here. I know my drawing's sort of not so great. Look. So this is connected there and there. All right. So again, with the sort of the shroud, the cloud kind of situation. Okay, so by 29th, the T-square's not really available anymore. See how the lines are lighter. So we're looking at what lines are darker, sort of thing. And the reason I don't focus too much on the blue lines being trines and sextiles, I mean, I do mention them, but for me, it's sort of like that's easygoing energy and an opening for, an opening for you to choose whether you do something or not. It's the sextiles are opportunities. Trines are the easygoing energy where, you can choose to or not to, but it's easygoing energy. So it makes things more pleasant. So what I'm wanting to look at more is how can we work through these difficult energies, to benefit ourselves. That's sort of my focus this way. So yeah, so again, Venus in Gemini still. So as we've been saying, communicating what we value versus, because again, it's a challenge, the seriousness, the oppressiveness of what's hidden from us, perhaps. So this might actually be a little sort of, yeah, sort of like, or perhaps it might be something like not able to see where the authority is coming from or exactly what authority either has dominion or what authority we have, not really knowing, what that is, or it might be about addictions, because it's Pisces, and sort of taking a serious look at that, looking into what has been hidden, taking a serious look at what's been hidden or what's been oppressive for us or towards us. It's also about authority, how, perhaps, yeah, again, I think the same sort of thing that I said a minute ago, the idea of not seeing, maybe not seeing where our authority lies, or because we need to, here we go with, we need to communicate, Gemini, what we value, and there's a serious look at that, so we need to communicate it in a way that is balanced, you know, uh, with some form of authority, perhaps, where we've been maybe a bit lax with authority, or the other way around, where we have put up with someone else being over authoritarian, kind of with us, you know, um, dictating to us, that sort of thing. That can be a bit of a difficulty, or it could be where we haven't seen, where certain things that have been, where authority figures have been giving us information, we haven't been taking it on board. We've been clouding that out of our situation, sort of thing, ignoring it, turning a blind eye. Um, Pisces can have the rose-colored glasses, not seeing, again with the foggy shroudedness, not seeing where our authority lies or not seeing where certain authority figures need to be um, noticed in our life, sort of taking on board, um, sort of realizing where authority figures lie in our or where they um, are placed in our situation, in our life, whatever's going on, and sort of not fooling ourselves, because that's another thing, self-sabotage with Pisces, where we can fool ourselves to not listen to authority figures, um, people in higher power sort of thing. But we need to communicate what we value, perhaps with authority figures, and sort of not being rose-colored glasses, foggy-minded about it, sort of thing. Sort of having a serious viewpoint of it and a balanced viewpoint of it, because this is a challenge. We're going to need to communicate our authority, or we're going to need to communicate with authority or with authority figures, or we need to find a way to communicate where our authority isn't oppressive to others, can be another point of view, you know. Um, I think that's pretty much all I can say about that. So I'm going to leave that one there and move on to the next chart. There's also, this is heading towards a full moon. So it's sort of also, it might be more about looking into that, because well, we've got a little bit of a square with Chiron and Pluto still, so we're still looking within. But this is also before the full moon, so it's I would say that the trines and the sextiles are helping this out to not be so intense. Yeah, so not like the T-square. But yeah, the T-square from the chart before, or the one or two charts before, also because it's still running through the new moon, the last bits of the new moon energy, the T-square could be about starting something new once we deal with those heavy energies, that we're able to move forward in a more progressive, Uranus, a transformative, easier way, like to our benefit, if that makes sense. Yeah, no, I know I'm talking about a previous chart we've already passed, but hey. Next chart, let's go. Okay, this is the final one for the month, and this is the full moon. Okay, so tropical will be saying it's full moon in Sag, but we have a very intense full moon in Scorpio. Moon, Sun in Taurus. Or full moon is always in opposition. So yeah. Okay, so again, the ascendants sort of be different. See how the ascendant in this chart is Sag. Anyway, we'll go with the actual, we're talking about the full moon. So Sun in Taurus, and now it's moved out of the Cazimi, 9 degrees with Uranus in Taurus, but 17 with the Sun in Taurus. So it's completely combust now. It's out of the Cazimi now. So we've had the time that we've worked with making big changes. For some of us, it will be big things happening, big changes in our lives that we're working through. Now, Scorpio can be about, well, shared resources. That's also eighth house, Scorpio, eighth house. shared resources, inheritances, tax debts, sex, taboo subjects, the occult. Did I say death? It could be death. This is a full moon in Scorpio, so this one's we're gonna feel the intense feelings. And as I said, again, make note of what themes come up, because Sagittarius is not generally seen as an intense sign, and yet it will be said that there'll be intense energies. That's because the telescope will tell you it's actually in Scorpio. So, again, see what themes come up for you guys, what you're seeing like playing out in the world stage, sort of thing. Now, this could be because we've still got Pluto in Capricorn here, and we will for some time, I think until 2040 or 2041 or something. Yeah, so this could have some sort of thing going on with the political arena or some people within it. Um, there could be some sort of, well, it could have something to do with some sort of, as I said, one of the themes of Scorpio, intimacy sort of side of things. Um, it could be sort of, because this is a full moon, so it's going to be spotlighted kind of thing. Something's going to be revealed. Because remember how with the a new moon, it's dark. We can't see it because it's hidden. It's they're together. The sun and the moon are together, whereas the moon is opposing, and therefore we can see it when it's a full moon because the sun's shining on it because it's from the opposite side. Um, but yeah, so with Scorpio, it could be something like someone passes away, for instance, and suddenly someone passes away, perhaps. And the moon obviously will then move the next day into a Fucus. So then, because a Fucus is very intense as well, because it's Scorpio energy as well, and that can be the fallout of someone passing away and the inheritance, or it could be the falling out of some sort of inheritance and looking into that sort of thing, because this is Scorpio. Like I said, the Scorpio themes are the eighth house themes. Eighth house is the Scorpio house. Um, it could have something to do with sex, something coming to light about that in some way. Um, I feel that there'll be authority figures as well. This is a full moon, so it's going to be, eh. But there's a lot of trines and a lot of sextiles. So this is where I'm sort of thinking, even though it's going to be intense, there's still a way to work through stuff, because this trine goes to Saturn. So taking a somber, serious look. This is why I'm looking at authority and people in positions of power. Pluto in Capricorn, um, and perhaps how we have been affected by that, because Pluto's retrograde. So it's looking at positions of power, perhaps looking within, taking a look at that and how they're acting, perhaps, or what's been happening behind the scenes, because this is Scorpio. Scorpio will show what's behind the scenes. Scorpio is Pluto ruled, so that's interesting as well. See, Scorpio's ruled by Pluto, so Pluto what? Pluto investigates, Pluto digs, Pluto purges what's hidden. And so we've still got these guys, you know, with the cloudiness of Pisces, but this is now trining the moon. So it's not squaring the moon. It's not having a difficult aspect. It's not a challenge. It's energies we can. It's easygoing energies we can work with. So it's not going to be um, intense to look at what has been holding us back or what's been um, in our way, what we have not been seeing, sort of thing, because that's a trine, not a square or an opposition. See, and this one's a sextile. See how our Neptune, the ruler planet of Pisces, is now sextiling Pluto as well. So there's this idea of whatever does get brought to light, whatever does need to be purged, can be done in a way that's going to be helpful, because we've also got Pluto trining, looks like Uranus here as well. So even though I don't always focus so much on the trines and sextiles, I mean, they are part of it, yeah, but um, that's helpful energies that we can have working in our favor. Um, so we don't get overly emotional, but it is a full moon, so some might get overly emotional, as well as the fact that everyone's got different things in their chart, so it will be aspecting different people in different ways. But the general chart in terms of just the area and all that sort of thing, um, Scorpio full moon will be intense. It will have the Scorpio themes. Um, there might be something coming to light about the occult, even, and the idea of how that has been playing out and what's been hidden in that way, what's been sort of hidden. It might, hmm, we might learn more about something like that, that something that's been hidden and shrouded is now coming to light. And then we can make adjustments in that way, if that makes sense. We can adjust to this new information. Um, Now, Pluto is squaring Chiron, and Chiron's squaring Jupiter. That's right at the tail end of Gemini. That's why I was sort of saying there's still this communication aspect. And I was just looking at Mars in Aries. So, I mean, we're looking at the aspects, but even if it doesn't, it's still, even if it's not a square or an opposition, it's still there, if that makes sense. Mars is still in Aries, so there's going to be this sort of pushing forward with communication. It could be an in your face kind of communication, which won't work out too well. Again, like I've said, not everyone is going to work with the energies to benefit themselves and others. That's the whole point of it. It's we want to be able to get through our lives in the easiest way possible, but we have to work through these difficult aspects at the same time. From when they come along, they're helping us to work through things, to get past certain things, to open up to better things. We have to purge and get rid of what's difficult or what's holding us back. So it's a taking action with communication again. It's squaring Chiron, so there's that challenge because we've still got our, Chiron wounds that are for some of us, those Chiron wounds we don't even realize are working in the background, messing around with our lives, and we don't even know that it's happening. And we've got a light square here with Neptune to um, Mercury as well. Um, and Mercury's in the late degrees of Taurus here. So it's again communicating our values. See? Um, so Mercury's about to move into Gemini. So again, we'll be communicating, a lot of communication then, because Mercury's going to be happy in Gemini actually, but we're heading towards a retrograde. I'll talk about that in another video. But yeah, so again, there's going to be some sort of something's going to come to light. For some, it's probably going to be quite painful to know about. How we deal with it, well, for some of us, if we're working with it, you know, with what's been hidden, there's that easygoing energy there, as long as we're not sort of jumping in people's faces, but we're as well not just being a pushover and just letting it happen, that we're sort of communicating, taking action with communicating if that's what we're needing to do about whatever comes to light. Like I said, it could be someone passing away, and then with the moon moving into a fucus, the fallout of having to work out funeral, details and that sort of thing. It could be something coming to light about someone's uh, intimate escapades that has affected someone else, and purging that difficult situation. Um, yeah, but again, sort of trying not to let our Aries energy be too aggressive. But again, how it plays out in the world stage might actually again be quite in our face in a way, because with Jupiter expanding things, Jupiter's right at the tail end of Gemini, so there's going to be expansive communication, which will probably it might actually I don't want to say trigger some people, but it might sort of get people. This is where the Aries and the Mars comes in, because it might be an expansive communication that may trigger, in a sense, for some of us, that we're now seeing how that has played out in our lives in terms of wounding. Because see, here we go, purging the oppression, purging uh, the control, the authority, or purging not having control and authority. It depends on our situation. Are we being too controlling, or are we being too lax and letting everyone walk all over us, kind of thing? Or are we not taking notice of our self-sabotage tendencies? Are we not taking a serious look at that, about what we're ignoring, what addictions or self-sabotage that is happening, in our lives? And that can be in many forms, whether it's sabotaging ourselves financially, or relationship, or with substances. It could be anything, or we could be sabotaging ourselves with a form of work, career. It's not a career that's helping us to move forward, for instance, and it's we're feeling crap about it. And this is where Scorpio says it's time to bring this to light and deal with it. Purge what doesn't work for us anymore. Like the saying goes, purge and get rid of what no longer serves us, leave what no longer serves us, so that we can move forward. Because this, a full moon, as I said, will shine light on things, will show things up that we haven't seen, or that we've been ignoring. Maybe we do know about it, but we've been ignoring and avoiding it. That's a Pisces thing. But it also can be informative, in that once we find out this information, if we don't freak out and get aggressive and all that sort of thing, once we find out certain information, then from there, like I said, with the focus, in not necessarily the fallout of whatever we found out, but the information, we then move into how do we deal with that information? How do we move forward in our lives? What adjustments might we need to make? What might we need to let go of? What might we need to end? Or, looking at, because Scorpio is death, not necessarily someone actually dying. It can be that, obviously, but it can also be the death of something. And again, depending on the person's personal chart, it could be death of a relationship, it could be death of a career, a job. It could be, as I was saying, with the political arena, it could be the death of someone's career that way, or it could be the death of a certain rule or regulation or a certain bill that was passed, maybe it ends, maybe it gets uh, over, what's the word for it? Maybe it gets thrown out. Maybe something changes to come into effect to end oppression because of a certain rule or regulation, maybe from the government or maybe in the workplace, because we've got this Capricornian energy here. And it's, like I said, squaring Chiron. So there is this sort of wounding around authority figures, perhaps, or being oppressed in some way. And so there's the need to bring that to light and work through those energies to then, you know, improve our lives from there on, kind of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. I think I've said everything I needed to say. Um, so yeah, take it easy with this Scorpio full moon. See what comes to light. Again, see if it's about themes of Sagittarius, like higher learning, um, long distance travel, um, that sort of thing is Sagittarius. Um, is it really about that, or is that sort of how it's affecting or aspecting your chart? See, this might affect your chart. This Scorpio moon might be affecting your chart in terms of if you've got something in Sag. So yeah, so I wish you all the best of luck with working through this, but it looks like there's going to be some sort of intense energies, but we can work through it. But yes, something's definitely going to come to light, whether we like it or not, and how we deal with it and how we deal with the fallout is going to make a big difference. But yeah, looking within about whether we need to be, um, standing up for ourselves more, or whether we need to pull back if we're honest with ourselves and we're too authoritarian or too pushy or too, um, if we've got a position of power, especially, if any of us have got like a higher position, we need to be sort of looking at, are we being too authoritarian, or is someone else doing that to us? That's a sort of the pendulum swing in that sense of working out how does it play out for us and how's it going to be seen on the world stage, because I really think something big's going to go on, probably in the political arena, in some sense. Something's going to be brought to light. So on that note, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there, and wish you guys all the best of luck with these energies. I hope that I've been a bit out of whack with it all. I haven't been uploading enough lately, so I want to be getting back on track. I know I said that a while back, but then things went on. But yeah, so hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Let me know in the comments, how you perceive it might play out or whatever. And if this has been helpful for you. Yeah, so anyway, wish you all the best of luck with the final part of this month and onwards. And until next time, bye for now.